Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating case study about modern celebrity connection. We're going to break down this remarkably cozy, intimate, and surprisingly revealing live stream from global superstar Kim Taehyung. So let's just jump right in and see exactly what happens when the massive stadium lights go down and a global icon just turns on his phone camera in his living room.
So right off the bat, you've got millions of fans watching, right? Why does someone suddenly decide to broadcast his evening to that many people? Well, in his own words, I turned on the live because I missed the timing to wash up. Yep, he literally just wanted to procrastinate taking a shower. I mean, how relatable is that? It's just such an incredibly spontaneous, grounded reason to go live. In a split second, he strips away the whole highly polished idol persona and just invites us all into a very normal, lazy evening moment. But there's a catch. Right away, he establishes these high-stakes and real-time constraints for this spontaneous little hangout. He tells everyone he only has 3% battery left on his phone. So he's setting this firm boundary, letting everyone know that the second that battery drains down to 1%, he's got to log off immediately. It creates this brilliant ticking clock effect. It actually makes the broadcast feel fleeting and urgent, and honestly all the more special, because both he and the viewers know their time together is strictly limited by a battery icon.
Okay, let's get into section 1, life behind the screen, looking at those daily realities.
You'd probably think a superstar would talk about massive global events when hanging out with millions of people, right? Well, surprisingly, no. He actually launches into this wonderful, totally stream of consciousness update about his physical life. He's showing off a mosquito bite he got in Boston, he's casually mentioning a re-pierced ear hole, and he playfully admits that at 32 years old, he can really feel his stamina dropping. The contrast here is just absolutely fantastic. You have this towering figure in global pop culture, and yet his biggest gripes in the moment are itchy bug bites and the inevitable reality of getting older.
Naturally, during these casual streams, fans are throwing tons of questions into the chat. And one viewer sparked a really interesting conversation by asking, can all the BTS members work out together? Now, it paints a really fun picture in your head, doesn't it? The whole group hitting the gym at the exact same time. But his response completely shatters that mental image.
He emphatically answers, telling the audience that no, absolutely not, they cannot all work out together. In fact, he says gym sessions are strictly capped at 3 people maximum. He explains that 2 people working out together is the absolute sweet spot, but 3, that is the absolute limit. You are literally never going to see 4, 5, or 6 of them trying to lift weights together. And why is that? Well, it all comes down to how uniquely they approach fitness.
It is so fascinating to see how highly individualized their habits are. Take Jimin, for instance. He relies on these flexible, dance-based movements, a routine so specific that Taehyung admits he can't even get close to following it. Then you have RM, who prefers to just keep his head down with solo workouts. Jin wants things highly efficient. He prefers a fast-paced session that is entirely wrapped up in 30 minutes. And meanwhile, Suga actually works out completely separately alongside the staff. It's a really interesting look at how these artists, who are so perfectly synchronized when they're on stage together, are actually incredibly fragmented and independent in their personal routines.
All right, moving on to section 2, the creative mind and directing run BTS.
So he brings up this recent photo shoot and highlights a moment of genuine creative frustration. He acknowledges that they have wonderful staff who take beautiful photos, but he basically tells the viewers standing in a straight line is just too boring. He just couldn't stand the idea of doing yet another standard, lifeless corporate photo shoot where the members just stand shoulder to shoulder staring at a lens. He had this deep desire to create something genuinely fun and visually engaging.
But instead of just complaining about it, he takes action. Step 1, he identifies the problem. Straight lines are boring. Step 2, he actively gets in there and brainstorms with the camera crew. He's pitching them ideas, saying, let's not shoot in a straight line, let's put our heads together and make it fun. And finally, step 3, he executes this dynamic comic book cover aesthetic, which is so much more interesting and playful. It just goes to show how he naturally takes a very basic, mandatory concept and transforms it into a dynamic piece of art.
Which brings us to section 3, connection, meeting ARMY, and his overall live stream philosophy.
He describes this incredibly heartwarming habit he's developed. When he's out on the street and spots fans who recognize him, rather than hiding or, quickly walking away, he actually loves to initiate the greeting. He'll playfully walk right past them and casually say, "Hi, what's up?" or ask what they're doing. He actively wants to flip the script and create these special, spontaneous, and surprisingly normal memories for fans in the real world. And he goes on to detail the pure intimacy of these random street encounters. He talks about moments where they end up walking down the very same path together. They shake hands, they exchange simple words of thanks, and he describes the ultimate result of these encounters as walking away feeling a truly warm heart. It's not just the fans who are starstruck and grateful, right? He emphasizes that he and the members feel deeply moved and mutually grateful for these quiet, shared moments of humanity on the sidewalk.
And this deep desire for genuine connection leads him to pose a fascinating dilemma to the fans watching the broadcast. He asks them directly, what is the best way to live stream? He genuinely wants their feedback on how they prefer to interact with him in this digital space.
To figure it out, he weighs two drastically different live streaming options and asks the viewers to consider which they'd prefer. On one hand, we have short and frequent, going live for brief moments a few times a week, just whenever they miss each other. On the other hand, we have long and rare, which he playfully exaggerates as going live only once every 2 years, but when he does, it's for 2 days straight, like they do everything together, eating meals, even going to the sauna. It's a funny comparison for sure, but it really shows how much he thinks about the actual rhythm and pacing of maintaining a connection with millions of people.
So, what about the stream we are looking at today? Well, it firmly falls into the short category. Remember that ticking clock we talked about at the beginning? The battery finally drained down, and this spontaneous, shower-delaying broadcast lasted a grand total of exactly 26 minutes. A brief, concentrated burst of connection. But right before he hits that final 1% and logs off, he makes an incredibly vulnerable confession. He tells the viewers, talking to yourself in an empty room, looking at your face in mirror mode without anyone answering, is not an easy thing to do. Wow. He's begging the audience to understand this, really shattering the illusion that these casual streams are effortless. It is profoundly isolating to broadcast alone, staring at your own reflection, trying to project warmth and personality into a totally empty room while waiting for text to scroll by on a screen.
Which brings us to our conclusion, and a really provocative question I want to leave you with today. How much invisible emotional effort does it really take to maintain a connection through a one-way screen? We tend to take these digital interactions for granted all the time, but behind every single casual celebrity live stream is a person sitting alone in a room, working incredibly hard to bridge that gap and make you feel seen. I really hope this explainer gave you a newfound appreciation for the genuine effort that happens behind the screen. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and keep learning.